They say necessity is the mother of invention, and nowhere is it truer than in farming. Farmers have always been on the search for a better way, noticing a problem and finding an answer. Generation after generation, more than anything else, innovation has to do with listening, then finding an effective solution. That's the foundation of KINZE. It started with one man with a God-given talent to create, and a repair shop equipped with basic tools. But by listening to farmers' wants and needs and responding with smart and simple inventions, KINZE delivered better solutions to the farmer. Today, KINZE has grown to an international company, and it continues to carry on its founder's philosophy. Like most farms, it's still a family business. Now, in the next generation of leaders, providing next-generation technology, while operating with the same core values it started with in 1965, conducting themselves in the highest ethical manner in all relationships, hearing the customer's current and future challenges, always asking, how can we do it better? Responding with creative breakthroughs, all in a culture that realizes people are the greatest asset. Technology, ourselves, you name it, we push it. Join us on a special journey from what if to what is, where precision for every customer is personal. And see what can happen when an innovator and the company that's his legacy never stop asking what if. Because farmers won't either. They started centuries ago, spreading seed on the open ground, then letting nature take its course. The first man-made planter invention? It wasn't really a giant step forward, simply a crude wooden and steel crafted tool to make it easier for the farmer to singulate seeds once again by hand. Then they discovered the power and efficiency of horsepower and started pulling one-row planters through the field with mules or horses. When they hitched up a team of horses, they not only increased horsepower, but they also figured a way for two men to first mark the fields into 36 and 40-inch checkerboard patterns, then come back and plant each seed simply by pulling a latch that released the seed. Then, when tractors and engine power took over, modern agriculture emerged with a wide range of 2, 4, 6, and even 8-row planters. And yet, even in the early 1950s, there were many farmers who were still driving 2 and 4-row planters with a team of horses. Those were the days of 160-acre farms, 40-horsepower tractors, and endless days, weeks, and months in the field planting crops. It was time for a change. Everyone starts somewhere. For John Kinzenbaugh, it started in Ladora, Iowa, in a 1,500-square-foot building with a lot of small repair jobs, fixing broken hitches, loader frames, leaky hydraulic pumps, rehauling trucks and farm tractors, even something as simple as drilling a new hole for a hitch.
I had a guy that came in with a used piece of steel. It was a drawbar out of an old tractor, and he wanted an 1.25-inch hole drilled in it. And I took a brand new 1.25-inch drill bit and drilled a hole in that drawbar, which had some hardening effect. And I nearly ruined the $10 drill bit, and I charged him probably $5 for drilling that hole. And I had one customer scold me for nearly ruining the bit and not charging enough to even pay for the drill bit. But within a month, those guys had brought back a tractor to overhaul and some other work, and we'd done around $500 worth of work for those guys. That's how work comes back to a small shop, is by word of mouth. One satisfied customer leads to another.
Within just a few years, KINZE Welding had expanded into repowered tractors. And to demonstrate them, they did custom anhydrous applications. That led to the development of a unique 13-shank anhydrous applicator and John's very first mass-produced product.
As a result of the need for horsepower, the need for demonstrating the horsepower, we started custom applying anhydrous ammonia for the local fertilizer dealer. And we would go out and do 2,000 or 3,000 acres of custom application with one of the repowered tractors, and the 13-knife anhydrous bars that we built were unheard of in size.
1 year later, John started focusing his attention on solving another customer problem: moving grain from the combine to the truck.
Local customer needed a way of getting the corn away from the combine. His frustration, as well as other people, was in a wet conditions. They couldn't get the truck into the field, and if you were hauling the corn any distance at all, wagons were becoming way too slow as far as road travel. Four-wheel wagons is what I'm thinking of here. And he wanted the ability to load his truck, which held right at 400 bushel, quick and easy, and keep it out on the road rather than in the muddy field.
As tractor horsepowers increased, so did John's interest in demonstrating his popular repowers, this time with the John Deere 5020.
The famous old way of demonstrating horsepower, and it shows, was to pull a moldboard plow. So I went to Steinerson's here in Conroy and priced a new 7-bottom, and they wanted to know if I wanted a 16-inch cut or an 18-inch cut. And I said, well, that's a good question. Ed Steinerson said, well, we don't need to decide whether it's a 16 or an 18. We can order the plow in and then we'll set it up the way you want it. And I said, well, what do you mean? It has to have a longer frame. The backbone of the plow has to be longer. And he said, no, it's the angle that the bottoms are attached to the backbone determines the width. And just like a light bulb coming on, it clicked into my mind that if we could pivot those bottoms without taking bolts out, but could do it on a pivot, we could then adjust the plow infinitely. And I realized this was something that could be patented. And so my first patent was on an adjustable cut moldboard plow. So in the summer of '71, I took the plow and the drawings and pictures of it and went out and met Bill Diedrich for the first time.
1 year later, John was back at DMI talking to Mr. Dietrich about 12 bottom plows and a lot more power.
I sketched on a napkin at the restaurant how I would hook the two 6-bottom plows together, kind of like a front part was pull type and the back part was like a mounted plow that attached. And he agreed that that would be a good way to do it, and he would furnish the 6-bottom plow frames if I would join the two together. Well, then he right away wanted to know, what are we going to pull it with? And I said, well, that's a good question. But jokingly, I said, you know, we could hook two 50-20s together and pull it with two tractors. And the fall of '74, I was getting close to getting it finished. And I can remember 2 or 3 of the John Deere engineers came by the shop the week before the Farm Progress show, and they commented that it sure would be a show stealer if we just had it ready for the show. And they didn't think there was any way that it would show up at that Farm Progress show 4 days later or 5 days later, but it did.
The year was 1975, 10 years after John opened his 1,500 square foot welding shop. Planters were getting bigger, and no one had come up with a fast, easy way to transport from field to field.
In 1975, a farmer from southern Iowa came through and just made a comment that somebody should figure out how to fold a big planter. The fact that you folded a planter up vertically was spilling seed and spilling insecticide, and it just wasn't a good way to transport or to pull a planter in most of the Midwestern fields. So I started looking at a way to take a 12-row planter or a 16-row and fold it horizontally. And so it was clearly a need for that folding invention.
By 1977, new John Deere MaxEmerge row units were setting the standard for accurate seed placement and depth control. And KINZE was mounting them on the majority of their newly patented rear folding toolbars. But when Deere decided to limit KINZE access to their MaxEmerge row units, and then KINZE decided to build their own, that's when things really got interesting.
In approximately 1981, there seemed to be a need for smaller planters, and since we had solved the row unit issue and could build as many as we needed, we introduced 4 and 6 row planters. But at that same time, it was apparent that a narrow row soybean planted with a planter was much better than planting with a grain drill. So we developed what we called the double frame planter. On the back bar, it was wide open to have row units spaced as close as 15 inches. And then we could plant 15-inch soybeans with the same planter that we planted corn. In 1983, it was obvious that we could use a better way of putting the interplants on the bar. We decided that we would stagger the rows, and it occurred to me a few days before the Farm Progress Show in 1983 that we could build that row unit and push it from the rear. The patent called it a rear-driven row unit, but it's basically the fact that it has the gauge wheels up front, and by putting the parallel linkage at the back side, we could push that row unit like you'd push a wheelbarrow.
It was a simple concept, easy to do. It was patented, universally accepted by farmers, and before long, it led to the next KINZE innovation, the pivot fold planter for 6, 8, 12, and 16-row toolbars.
If you took the push unit length of about 4.5 feet, added the double frame distance of about 3.5 feet, added the 5-foot rear unit, you were about 10 feet fore and aft. So it occurred to me that if we could build the planter that would raise and one end rotate forward, the other end rotate backwards, it was basically a central rotation of the bar, and it occurred to me that we could lock the frame rigid so that it did not flex.
KINZE innovation continues for the next generation. Our company is bigger and, dare we say, even better. A place where game-changing solutions are born, creating the next wave of cutting-edge technologies. Right here, right now. As long as there is KINZE, the gold standard will not be red or green. Because precision isn't a paint job, precision is personal. Farmers inspire what we create today and what we envision for tomorrow. When they talk, we bring it to life. When they talked about the shortage of skilled part-time labor, we were the first to debut an autonomous system in farming, using GPS to take grain from combines to awaiting trucks. When they asked for a way to use their soil maps, we created the first multi-hybrid planter, using field data to plant different hybrids in the same field. And when you deliver such world-class technology here at home, it's only natural that the rest of the world would come calling, which is why KINZE has a factory and dealer network to serve Europe and Russia. And just like in the U.S., our approach is far from cookie-cutter. We're creating tailored, forward-thinking products that answer the specific needs of their farms and conditions, proving that KINZE innovation translates into any language. Its performance goes beyond borders. And like the modern family farms we serve, we continue to expand, innovate, and evolve. We are innovators and collaborators who thrive in a culture of creativity, endless imagination, and strong values, making today's equipment smarter and intuitive for performance that's years ahead of its time. Whether it's an intuitive in-cab touchpad that serves as your eyes and ears on the ground, nearly instant population rate changes, and consistent seed spacing across every row during turns, placing each seed with precision for highly accurate spacing and population control. True row-by-row downforce control for consistent seed depth and seed-to-soil contact. A smaller, more agile grain cart with the dependability of the KINZE dual auger carts, or a 3-in-1 high-speed tillage tool to prep fields faster and better.
Innovation is the very fabric of our organization. It got us into the business and it keeps us at the forefront of ag technology. It's who we are as a company, that game-changing innovator in the marketplace where the industry is looking to us. We live in a world of smartphones, big data, and endless connectivity. For the sake of our customers, we as a company will keep the same pace of innovation, creating smarter equipment that utilizes smarter software, where the farmer, his data, and his equipment are interconnected and working together to get the most from every acre using the least amount of resources. We are the company that's doing it now, and we will continue to be that source of connectivity, efficiency, and productivity. It's all of our people who will continue to make it happen every day through our core values, listening to the customer, hearing their current and future challenges, responding with creative breakthroughs, achieving maximum quality, and working together as a team with our eyes towards the future.